Hello, Shiver Seekers. Are you ready to follow us into the unknown? I'm Cynthia.
And I'm Stephanie. You found the dark oak.
Today, I'm going to tell you all about the very bizarre disappearance of Mateusz Kawecki.
Welcome to the Dark Oak, the mystery podcast with purpose. Each month through our charity, the Branch of Hope Foundation, we give a portion of earnings from our Patreon and sponsors to a nonprofit organization related to the first episode of the month. To find out how you can be part of the movement, head to our website, thedarkoak.com, our Instagram account, The Dark Oak Podcast, or stay around to the end of the episode and we'll give you all the details.
Well, hey, Shiver Seekers, before we get into today's episode, and it's a wild one. I'm warning you now, it's a wild one. But before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to remind you guys of the fun we're having over on our Patreon. And if you join our $10 tier, then Stephanie and I will send you a personalized 5 to 7 minute video of us just off the cuff, off script, not edited, just being ourselves. And we've had so much fun making these little videos, and they've gotten a great response from our Patreon members who've received them. So we just wanted to remind you that we're doing that. We're having a lot of fun with it. We send you a little questionnaire to fill out so we can personalize these videos for you. And you send us back those answers, and then we send you whatever it is that comes out of our mouths.
You just never know what will come out of our mouths.
Never know. And let me tell you, the first time we did it, I was so nervous because I was like, here goes nothing. We're not going to edit these. It was so much fun. We had so much fun. So it's a great way to get to know us better. We certainly get to know you a lot better. A lot of these videos have opened up a dialogue, and we'll get this email exchange going back and forth between the listener and ourselves, and we really get to know each other. It's just been such a blast. So that's something new we're doing for our $10 tier. We have a couple new $10 tier members. Those videos will be going out for you in the next week or two.
Yeah. And know for your $10 subscription, it's $10 a month, but a few dollars of that $10 goes to boost support for our sponsored nonprofit organization of the month. So you're doing good things. We're doing good things. We're all doing some good things. I love it. I love all the things, all this energy.
And both our $5 and $10 tier members get a free Patreon episode every month. We're trying to get some extra bonus episodes in there too to just build that library. Check it out.
Come find us.
That's right.
Okay, Cynthia, tell me about this case. You said it is completely weird.
It's a weird one. It's a weird one for sure. And you get the bonus of getting to hear me attempt to speak with my best Polish and German accent. So that's really fun as well. A lot of these names really took a lot of work for me to learn how to pronounce.
I'm actually slightly terrified now. This case just got scarier.
Stephanie, you would be so proud of me because I probably spent like an hour today looking up the correct pronunciations and then putting in my script like how it's pronounced.
Oh boy.
So I really think I'm going to nail them. But if I don't come for me.
Okay, if you speak German or Polish, we need a rating of how well Cynthia is doing.
Yes, and I am almost completely convinced I would get like A+++.
Okay,
I'm
well, you know
really
what?
confident.
Sometimes just faking it till you make it is the way to go. Sometimes
Well,
that's all you need. If you say it and just keep going, no one will know the difference. I mean, obviously, unless you actually speak German or Polish, but the rest of us English speakers will have no idea.
That's
right. You could fool a lot of us right now.
And I might even suggest that the German and the Polish might be like, oh, that's how you pronounce it. I've been doing it wrong this whole time. So yeah, wish me luck there. But this case actually reminds me a lot of one of our really popular episodes, the Panama Hikers case.
Oh, yeah. Such a weird case.
So weird. And the details are completely different in this case. But it reminds me of that case in that initially there seems to be a somewhat reasonable explanation for what may have happened. But then the more you look into the details, the more questions come up and the answers don't seem to make any sense. So I'm really curious to see what you are going to think at the end of this episode. I also want to preface this episode by saying I did run into a bit of an issue while researching this episode because this is a Polish case and most of the source material is not in English, which, as you can imagine, made researching the case quite difficult. So some of the details I would normally bring are lacking. For instance, in every single article I read, it would just say Mateusz's father or Mateusz's mother, but not provide an actual name. So because of the lack of available information, there's just going to be some details I'm not going to be able to give you. Also, because of that lacking information, this is a case where I did listen to other podcast coverage after doing my own research just to see if there was anything I could maybe glean from some of their work. But one of the things I learned is apparently not all podcast hosts list their sources in the show notes. So if I heard something but then couldn't find a source other than just the podcast host saying it on their show, I didn't feel comfortable bringing it or at least stating it as fact. So all that to say, this episode probably isn't going to be the deepest dive I've ever done, but it is a case that because of this lack of information, at least in English, it doesn't get a huge amount of coverage. And I think it's worth bringing some attention to.
Okay.
So Mateusz Kawecki was born on June 14th, 1987. He grew up in a small village in southeastern Poland called Chudków. Mateusz was very close to his family and grew up to be a hardworking and diligent man. But as he grew into adulthood, he realized the small village of Chudków was lacking in job opportunities. So Mateusz and his sister moved to Hanover, Germany, where Mateusz lived with his father and got a good job as a construction worker. Now, Mateusz had been living in Hanover for about 5 years at the time our story takes place. However, he did visit his hometown of Chudków often because his mother had stayed behind in the family home where she enjoyed taking care of their garden and the family's little farm. It made me think of you, Stephanie.
Yes, we're now getting into hydroponics.
Oh, isn't that where you grow food in water?
Yeah, so the idea, it's soilless growing, and you can build it a couple different ways. Picture PVC pipes with holes in it, and then you get these periodic pumps. It's 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off that run the water, and you have nutrients that you put in the water. So the roots just absorb through the water. There's less waste. The nutrients go directly into the roots, and so they grow twice as fast. So we have all the equipment. We haven't actually grown anything yet, but I'm really excited. Stay tuned.
Yeah, very exciting. Mateusz was also in a long-distance relationship with a woman named Agatha, who resided in a village called Libia Góra in northwestern Poland. And Agatha was pregnant with the couple's first child. And apparently, from everything I saw and read, the couple was super excited to be having this baby. On March 28th, 2018, 30-year-old Mateusz got the call that Agatha was about to go into labor. So at about 11:30 p.m., Mateusz got in his 1998 BMW 525 and began the 402-mile or 647-kilometer journey from Hanover to Libia Góra. So leaving at this time of night, Mateusz was expecting to arrive in Libia Góra between 8 and 9 a.m. the following morning. But by 10:30 that morning, Mateusz still had not arrived. But it was around this time that Mateusz had a phone call with his father, where he told his father there'd been a terrible traffic jam on the way to Poland and that he was stuck in Szczecin, a town on the Polish-German border. And from where he was, he still had about 133 miles or 214 kilometers to go. So this must have been a major traffic jam because the entire journey is about an 8.5 or 9 hour drive. Mateusz has been on the road for 11 hours and he isn't even halfway there.
Yeah, yikes.
Really yikes. So I'm assuming the road was at a complete standstill, which seems unlikely, but is not impossible. This actually happened to me once on the way to Key West. So for anyone who's never traveled to Key West, there's literally a 7-mile long bridge. It's one way in and one way out. And it's just this little 2-lane bridge that stretches over these islands for 7 miles. And if anybody has any car trouble or if there's a crash on that bridge, you will be stuck, not moving for hours. So when I heard that he ran into this horrific traffic jam, all I could think about was the time I was stuck on the 7-mile bridge for like 5 hours.
You are doomed. And it is notorious. And it's not even like a wreck necessarily on big weekends, like Friday going down or Sunday evening or Monday coming back up. It's just notorious traffic because there's not even a side, like a shoulder to go on to, because it's all these, again, keys, so essentially like islands connected. So if you try to go off on the shoulder, you end up in like the mangroves,
Yeah.
which is no bueno. So yeah, I could totally see that. Again, this is notorious. So maybe this area was prone to bottlenecks as well.
Right. Now, of course, I don't know what these roads look like in Germany and Poland, but from my own experience, I can have empathy for this type of a road trip. Now, at the same time Mateusz talked to his dad, he also got a message to his fiancée, Agatha, saying that he would probably be arriving in about 2 hours. And I say he got a message to her because I've seen it reported a couple of different ways. I've seen it reported that he had his dad reach out to her, but I've also seen where he reached out to her himself. So I'm not really sure how the message was relayed. And I don't know that it even matters, but a message was relayed to her that he was on his way, but held up.
He's stuck in this annoying traffic, but he's going to be there soon. Yeah,
Right.
Gotcha.
However, Mateusz never arrived. So after several hours had passed with no Mateusz, and he's not answering his phone calls, despite his phone being on, it was ringing. Agatha was getting more and more worried. She finally reached out to Mateusz's family. And by that evening, Mateusz's mother went to the police department to file a missing persons report, but was told it was too early and that she just needed to give it some more time. Mateusz would show up.
Wah, wah.
Right. Now, we hear this every single time. In this case, I can kind of understand a little bit because the police seem to think he'd probably just gotten tired from the drive and pulled over for a nap, or maybe he was still battling traffic. They just needed to give it some more time.
Yeah, I can see that too. And also, aren't we dealing with, wait, no, both cities are in Germany now, right? Where he was coming from and where he was going?
Well, no, he was coming from Germany. He was heading to
But going back to, okay. You also have the issue of he's crossing over country borders too. So I don't know if that plays into this, but if he's possibly crossing into Poland from Germany, I don't know. I wonder if that plays into it too. Like just creating more complications.
You are very smart, Stephanie. It absolutely does come into play. So much so that within a few days of Mateusz still just not showing up, his family was finally able to officially report Mateusz as missing in both Germany and Poland.
Okay. I'm going to be interested to figure out and see how the two countries work together. Like if you were even able to get information on that, because I don't know how international stuff like that happens in the EU. I mean, I know how it would work here kind of between like Canada and the United States, but I don't know. I don't know how international disappearances work in Europe.
Actually, it caused a lot of complications. Since the last known location of Mateusz was in Poland, according to that phone call he had with his dad, the German police didn't want to investigate, saying it was Polish jurisdiction. Now, the Polish police weren't that much more helpful. They did agree to try to locate Mateusz's phone, ping it.
Yeah.
but Mateusz used a German SIM card, so the Polish police weren't able to track it down.
Oh, see? All these little things that you don't think about.
All these
Oh,
little things.
I feel like this is going to make me really frustrated.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. So now Germany has to get involved, right? They have to help out with the phone issue. But they couldn't locate the phone either because there was no record of the phone connecting to a Polish network.
Oh, weird.
So this is really strange, right?
Yeah.
He calls his father just after crossing the border, but there's no Polish network that he's connecting to. Now, the German Polish border wasn't staffed, meaning there's no person there checking passports. However, the border was equipped with license plate number recognition cameras. So if Mateusz drove into Poland, there absolutely should be a record of it. But after reviewing the footage, investigators claimed that Mateusz's vehicle never crossed the border into Poland.
So was he lost or is he staging a disappearance?
Good questions. Good questions, Stephanie. I don't know that we know the answer.
Wow. Okay. Those are the first things that pop into my mind.
Right. Well, by this point, Mateusz's family didn't have a whole lot of faith in German or Polish authorities, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. Since there was no record that Mateusz's vehicle ever crossed into Poland, his family decided to look into other ways that he maybe could have potentially made the journey. Now, I'm sure they were asking themselves a lot of questions because he had specifically told his father he'd been on the road and, he got stuck in that traffic jam. So none of it's making any sense. But to be on the safe side, his family decided to look into the possibility that Mateusz had used public transportation to cross the border. So his family started checking the routes of buses and train stations. They stopped and talked to vendors at the local businesses all along these routes.
But why on earth would he have done that? Why on earth would he have taken public transportation? The idea would be his car broke down?
Oh, I have no idea.
Why would that have even been possibility? I guess when you have nothing, you're willing to go with anything, but why would that have even been suggested? I wonder if they knew something more than what we know. Are they assuming maybe he had car trouble and he was trying to still make it home? But then why didn't he mention that on the phone call?
Yeah, as far as the family's motivation as to why they said, oh, well, if he didn't drive, maybe he took some kind of public transportation. I don't know, because to me, that is a stretch. Like, he's talking like he's driving. You would think if the plans changed, the family would be made aware. The only thing I could come up with is just that he told them he was in Poland, but his car never went into Poland. So how else could he have gotten there? But I'm with you. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm sure the family was asking these questions like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But like you said, they're desperate, right?
Yeah.
They're desperate.
Yeah.
So they started asking local businesses for video surveillance. They posted Mateusz's picture on posters all around these little towns. They even held their own press conferences on TV in both Poland and Germany. And during these TV appearances, they absolutely did not hold back in letting the public know they were dissatisfied with the local law enforcement. But despite all of their efforts, months went by with no word from Mateusz and no clues as to where he might be. Now, here is one of the places where I wish I could give you some more information about this period of time. For example, I'm assuming Agnes gave birth, but I couldn't find anything about it just due to the lack of sources. So there are just some questions that I have that I just absolutely couldn't find the answer to. But I'm assuming she gave birth and just went on with a missing Mateusz.
Yeah, the best that she could. What
Right.
was your other option?
What I can tell you is about 5.5 months after Mateusz went missing, on September 12th, 2018, back at the family home in Houtgolf, a neighbor came to Mateusz's mother's house because he had noticed a terrible smell coming from the family barn. And this smell had been occurring for some time, specifically since the previous July. So it's September now, and this neighbor started smelling something foul coming from this barn back in July.
And the family never noticed?
Nope.
How far away from the barn were they?
That I'm not sure, but this is a barn they used. So the family used this barn.
They are personally acquainted with this barn.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, the neighbor just assumed it was probably a dead animal, maybe one of the livestock that had just found a quiet place in the barn to pass, as we know animals sometimes do. So this neighbor asked Mateos's mother if it would be okay for him to check the barn and hopefully figure out what was causing the smell. Now, let me describe this barn for you. Part of it is just like a regular barn, but there is this place inside that is walled off. So it's almost like there's this little room inside the barn.
Okay. I've seen that in some barns. It's like it could be like an office of some kind, but then it's also could be for like quarantine or maybe like feed storage or something like that. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure what they used it for, but yes, absolutely. It's a very like crude walled off room. But then this room also had an open loft that you could see up into. So there's like a second story, and some sources it's called an attic. To me, it's a loft because it's like the second story that you might use for storage or something, but you can absolutely see up into it.
Okay. So I do have to say, the way you're describing the barn, I'm like, oh, that sounds so amazing. But also I'm thinking there's a really weird, horrible dead animal smell in there. So I don't know. I don't think I'm going to love this barn, but man, I love a barn.
I love a barn. I love like an old red barn, like the live action movie Charlotte's Web that came out. I don't even know when.
Yes, with Dakota Fanning?
Yes.
Yes.
That, when I think of a barn, that's what I think of. It's like you could almost live in it. It's just like so cozy and so clean, and all the animals are happy, and it just should be on a postcard. That's a barn for me. Anything less than that, I want nothing to do with.
To me, there's something so historically romantic about a barn.
Yeah. Now, when the neighbor got to this part of the barn, so he went into this little room, he climbed up into the loft, and as he's looking around, he notices a pile of clothes on the floor. But as his eyes adjusted to everything he was seeing, he realized it wasn't just a pile of clothing. It was severely decomposed human remains.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, you heard me correctly. There is a severely decomposed dead body in the loft of the family barn.
Okay, well, that's concerning.
It was concerning. Now, these remains were in far too bad of shape to have any idea who it might be, but the neighbor could see that this corpse had been decapitated.
Okay, what is it with you and these decapitation cases, Cynthia?
I know, and I'm bringing you another one. The next episode I bring you, we've got some decapitation going on too. I don't know. It's finding me. It's finding me.
I mean, decapitated.
Yes. Now, the head was there, but it was detached from the body.
Is that better? I don't know. I don't know if that's better in my mind. I mean, I guess a missing head is technically worse, but also just being missing from the body, it's just inappropriate.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Authorities immediately responded to the scene and found 2 ropes formed into nooses hanging from the rafters of this loft area. They also discovered a backpack on the floor, which Mateusz's mother identified as belonging to her son. So though the body was in too bad of shape to say for sure, everyone pretty much knew that after 5 months, Mateusz had been found.
What the heck? How? Why?
Girl, if you can get me those answers, I would appreciate it, because we're not going to know how, why. I can tell you that. You're going to walk away from this like, huh?
What the heck? Okay, give me some more. Give me some more. Describe more of this beautiful barn.
Okay. It's getting less beautiful, is it not?
Well, it's not. This is not my ideal barn.
This is no Charlotte's Web, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Upon further inspection, investigators discovered that some of the decedent's teeth were knocked out or had fallen out and were stuck to the clothing with what appeared to be blood. And there were more dark patches consistent with blood on the clothing. Now, I want to talk about this for a minute because if you read anything about this case or even listen to other content on this case, you will probably see it reported as fact that these teeth were stuck to the clothing in blood. But I don't think that has been confirmed. From what I was able to see confirmed, they were stuck to the clothing with some dark substance consistent with blood, but I don't think the substance was tested, at least not initially. So,
Okay, so it could have been like decaying flesh or something like that?
yeah, I think it could have been some other type of bodily fluid, decomposition fluid, or I don't know, some other substance entirely. I don't know.
Some
But
random substance found in a barn, of which there
could
could
be.
be many? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. But I do think it's important to clarify because obviously, if the teeth were knocked out, as is often described, and stuck to the clothing in blood, in my opinion, this would have probably had to have happened while the person was still alive. Dead people don't bleed. So it would lead me to believe maybe there was some kind of attack. I'm not a doctor, but that's the picture that paints for me.
Okay.
But on the other hand, if the teeth had fallen out during decomposition, which I Googled and can happen, it doesn't always happen, but it certainly can, especially if the body is jostled or if there's some kind of impact to the body. So if the teeth came out after he was already deceased as part of the decomposition, then that would paint a totally different picture for me, right? So it could go either way.
The biggest question for me is still, how did the family not smell him? Like, how did they not know he was there?
That's one of the biggest questions for everybody. And there's no answer. The family is saying the same thing.
The family's saying, we just had no idea. Did they think there was a dead animal in the barn? Or they were just saying they didn't notice a smell at all?
So the family is saying that he wasn't there. The family's saying there's no way, it's impossible that he'd been there this whole time. Now, there was one podcast I listened to where they said, oh, the family had noticed a smell too. They just thought it was one of their animals. But again, that was in one podcast. I couldn't find a source saying that. But the family did absolutely say they'd been in that barn. They'd worked in that barn. They had looked into that loft. He was not there.
Okay, well, what was it? Because he is in an advanced stage of decomposition. Did any kind of medical examiner give an idea of how long they thought he had been deceased? Is this something he was gone for a few months, but then somehow made it into the barn and had only been there for a month or two?
If they have, I've never seen that. I haven't heard that as a theory. No, not to my
Okay.
knowledge. Let's talk about the fact that the body was decapitated. Initially, that too seems like it could have been the result of a very violent attack. However, if the body had been hanging by the neck for months and was in the process of decomposing, the weight of the body could have been enough to separate the head from the body, and then all of the remains just fall to the ground, which is how these remains were found. They were found laying on the ground. So for me, that explains the head being separated from the rest of the body, and could also potentially explain the teeth falling out as well. Perhaps that fall to the ground knocked the teeth out.
Right. I mean, I could certainly see that. Do we have any details about the rope? Did it have flesh on it? You know what I'm saying? Was there evidence that it could have been used in that manner?
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, the police didn't want to investigate this scene. They said it was a suicide. So
Oh, okay.
initially, there was no real investigation.
Okay.
Just very surface level stuff. I mentioned Mateusz's backpack was found in the loft
Right.
with the remains. And inside the backpack, there was a Polish water bottle with cigarette butts inside and an orange juice box. Now, Mateusz's family found this very suspicious as Mateusz apparently hated orange juice, like hated it. So they say there's absolutely no way that orange juice would have been his.
That's so random. It's random that he would have a juice he doesn't like, but also how random they're like, he despised orange juice. It was like the worst thing for him. I don't know. I mean, there are things that I don't like, but in a pinch, would I drink it? Maybe. I don't know. That seems like so funny. It's almost like he was just offended by the orange juice. But I do think it's weird he would have an orange juice box if it wasn't his, but I don't know.
So I thought that was weird too. I was like, okay, well, tastes change. And I don't like diet soda, but if I'm dying of thirst, would I drink a diet soda?
Well, this is kind of what I'm thinking. What's to say he didn't pull off at like a rest stop and that's all they had that was reasonably priced or something? I mean, was he so offended by orange juice that he wouldn't have drank it in a pinch?
Well, that's kind of the impression I got from the family. And
Okay.
some of that is just my interpretation. But the fact that it even kind of came up made me think that, okay, he must have really, really hated it. Because, like, I don't know that my parents would even know, like, Cynthia hates orange soda. Ooh, Cynthia shudders at the idea of orange soda, which I do. I think orange soda is disgusting. But I don't know that most people would even know that about me. So I feel like it had to have been a big deal for him. Like he must have really hated orange juice for everybody
Like
to know.
he had a traumatic orange juice experience when he was younger.
Yeah, right.
It just seems very extreme to say someone hates orange juice.
It does.
But then again, I get it. Maybe if he was given the choice, he would never choose an orange juice. That's fine. But the orange juice box alone in his backpack does not automatically make me think this is anything other than a suicide at this point.
Okay.
I guess that's where I am. I do think it's all still very strange, though, so I want to hear more for sure.
Okay. Well, Mateusz's cell phone was found in his backpack, and I think this is really weird. On March 30th, 2018, so a full day after Mateusz was discovered missing. So it's not the day he left his home, not the next day when he's discovered missing, but the day after that, there was an outgoing call on his phone to his uncle. But this call only lasted for a second and it didn't actually go through. So the uncle never received the call. So it was believed this is what I would call like a butt dial, like an accidental phone call. But how weird is that? Because during this time, his family is like blowing up his phone. So the fact that he's not answering their calls, but then accidentally calls his uncle, that's weird to me. Because you would think if something happened to him, there would be no activity on the phone at all.
Yeah, that is strange.
Now, though the family already knew in their guts that these remains belonged to Mateusz, DNA testing did confirm that it was his body found in the barn. The police and public prosecutor ruled that the death was a suicide. They believed that Mateusz had planned his death, and authorities said there was absolutely no evidence of foul play. And this conclusion may have been why authorities didn't want to pursue any further investigation into Mateusz's death. In fact, authorities remained so hands-off that they told the family it would take too long and be too tedious for them to search the entire barn. Apparently, the barn was filled with hay, or at least this loft was filled with hay. It was deemed too big of an undertaking. So the police said, we're not going to search it. So the family spent the next several days combing through the barn. Police didn't search it.
Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that, actually. It's too tedious. I mean, except they really, really thought that it was a suicide. But if the family is pushing back and saying, no, there's really something going on here, then you get people to search the barn. I just don't feel like that's a very good excuse.
I was going to say, I don't know how hard it is to search through hay, but I guess there is a phrase like a needle in a haystack. So I guess it would be pretty tedious to look for tiny pieces of evidence in a barn filled with hay, but it's what you do.
Yeah, if someone's murdered, that's what you do. You go through the haystack.
It's what you do. But it's not what the police did in this case. So it's what his family did. And guess what they found, Stephanie?
What?
4 days after Mateusz's body had been discovered in the barn, his family discovered his shoe in the barn with his detached foot still inside of it.
I'm sorry, what? How far away? Like, how far away from his body?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but this would have been far enough away that it couldn't have just accidentally fallen off.
Oh, I think it absolutely could. I think it probably did. I think the foot detached as part of the same process that the head detached from the body. I think, it was part of the natural decomposition.
But just the fact that his family found his foot in a shoe is abhorrent.
And that the police were up there and they didn't. Now, because this is a barn, so there absolutely could have been some animal activity. It's a decomposing body, so it stands to reason.
If you have like some rats or something carrying something off, yeah, okay, I see that too.
So it may have been moved far enough away that it wasn't easily visible. I didn't see anything that said it was on the other side of the barn, so I'm assuming it was relatively close. But I'm also assuming it wasn't like just laying there where anybody could see it either.
And it makes sense too if, say, a rodent had gotten hold of it, maybe it was kind of tucked away somewhere or something.
Right, exactly. Now, I've seen it reported that the autopsy report didn't even mention the fact that his foot was missing, and the family uses this as evidence that they just really did a shoddy job in their investigation. I haven't seen the autopsy report, but given what I know about the state of the body, I don't know if the report kind of addresses the fact that the body is in deep deterioration, is starting to separate. So I don't know if they kind of encompassed it that way. I don't know. But the family uses the fact that there was nothing explicit about his foot being missing in this report as just more evidence that they really didn't do a good job investigating.
It's really hard in this situation because did they really just do a bad job, or was it just so obviously a suicide that they didn't want to spend resources that they don't have researching it? It's just hard to tell because the family is telling a bit of a different story. What you're saying so far, I haven't heard anything to say it couldn't have been a suicide. I think it's hard though, because again, no investigation was done, but I do see at a police department, you only have so many resources. So if you really do think this is a suicide, is it really shoddy if you don't do additional work?
Right. And this is a small village. So yeah, I can see why if you believe this to be a suicide, I can absolutely see why you might try to get it wrapped up quickly. I understand that.
Had he had any history of depression or suicidal thoughts?
So not to my knowledge. And nothing that his immediate family has ever come forward and mentioned.
And again, it's not always obvious. So just because there isn't any of that doesn't mean that still couldn't be what it is. I'm just kind of talking out loud here.
No, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Now, the big thing for the family, and if this is true, then it's kind of a big thing for me as well. But his family says there was absolutely no way Mateusz had been hanging in that barn for 5 months. Because again, the loft was visible from the ground, and the family said they'd been using that barn throughout the summer. So it was absolutely impossible that they wouldn't have noticed a hanging body, never mind the smell. Because I thought that too. I thought, okay, so the smell showed up in July. He went missing at the end of March. So I was like, okay, say he went missing and he immediately went and killed himself. It wouldn't take 2-3 months for the smell to start, right? That would start pretty quickly. I looked at the weather in Poland. So in April, the average temperature is, I believe, in the 50s. That's the high. And even in July, when the smell started, warm is considered like 66 degrees Fahrenheit, which for us, that's our winter here in Florida. So I was imagining this like a hot barn, but it's actually pretty cold there. And I just wondered if that might have been part of the reason why maybe if he had been there the whole time, the smell didn't show up until much later. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100% it does.
I haven't seen that anywhere. I haven't read that anywhere. That was just a thought that came to my mind. And I just checked the weather and thought, oh, that could explain that for me.
Yeah. Also, though, how horrible to think he had been hanging there for 5 months and people had been like working under him and not noticed him.
Oh my gosh. All of the horrible things. Like he went missing. You've been so worried about him. He went missing and he came home and then decided to take his life. And then, like you said, has just been there and you've been, yeah, working underneath him, walking right past him every day.
Oh, and I just had a terrible thought. Okay, this may be super morbid and just a little bit graphic, but what if also while he was hanging there, his body was intact enough that maybe there wasn't a smell? But then if the theory that gravity and decomposition naturally separated his head from his body, maybe that process is what created the plume of smell.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that seems like the right timeline, right? In addition to the increased temperatures.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of that myself, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, it's a horrible thing to know that his mother every night went to bed worried sick about him and he's in her barn the whole time having taken his own life, if that's what you believe happened here.
It's
I mean,
awful.
there's no words. Yeah, there's no words. But his family says absolutely not. That just didn't happen. Again, they just don't believe it's possible that he could have been there the whole time. They would have seen it.
Well, I think it's unbelievable that he was there the whole time and they didn't notice. I think that's a little unbelievable, but I don't think it's unbelievable that he could have been there. I just think it's unbelievable they didn't notice.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's what they're saying. We've been there. You can see into the loft. If he had been there this whole time, we would have noticed. Now,
Either he was or he wasn't. It just doesn't sound like he was deceased somewhere else and then someone brought his decomposing body with his head separated from his body and just dumped it there. Like, that just doesn't seem believable to me. That's why I can't get past this. Either he was there or he wasn't there. I just don't think, considering his state of decomposition, he was anywhere else and someone just brought him there.
sure.
That
No,
doesn't seem plausible to me.
I think their question is, was he there because he chose to be, or did someone put him there? I think the family is questioning, did he actually take his own life, or did someone stage this to look like he took his own life?
Okay, yeah, but say they staged it. He would still have been hanging there. Even if someone had staged it where he staged it like he hung himself, wouldn't he still be hanging there?
Maybe not
Um,
the whole time, but yes. Yes, he was hanging there. When he
Still
was
hanging
found, he was
there.
laying on the ground. But yes,
And for at least some amount of time, he would have been hanging. At least some
sure.
amount of time. So
Right.
either way, you missed it. Either somebody staged it and you missed it, or he committed suicide and you missed it. Either way, he was hanging there. So it does make me question a bit of their credibility, I guess.
I see what you're saying. For me, the impression I got was that they were saying for the majority of the summer, he had not been there. So he'd been put there later. I don't know when they believe he was put there, but the impression I got when they say, there's no way he could have been here this whole time we've been working out here, is that he didn't disappear at the end of March. And whether he hung himself or somebody put him there, he wasn't there for the last 5 months, I think
Okay.
is what they're saying.
We'll say that he wasn't. Let's
Mhm.
say he decided to go somewhere for 3 months on like some getaway or rendezvous. He was just gone for 3 months. There's something to say he didn't come back and still commit suicide.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely.
I don't know whether he was there the whole time or not, but considering everything that I see, I don't know that anyone would have staged it. Or if they did, I feel like they could have done it in a much less complicated manner.
I agree with you. If somebody staged this, it's weird.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
But honestly, I also think it's a weird way to take your life, too. Here's what I'll tell you. At the end of this episode, I think no matter what you think happened, we're going to be like, but man, that's weird. So let me tell you more.
Okay.
Eventually, the family put enough pressure on authorities that they did reopen the case. So especially Mateusz's sister, she really put a lot of pressure on authorities. So in 2020, the case was reopened, and 2 officers who'd worked on the case originally were actually reprimanded for the way they initially handled it.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So that's great. That's great that they're taking a second look.
Again, I do think them not helping to search the barn was off. I don't think that was appropriate.
No, horrible, horrible. Okay, what I'm going to share with you now, I believe is a result of the 2020 reinvestigation. But again, it is a little hard to nail down a perfectly clear timeline. So I cannot say with 100% accuracy when the following information was learned. But my best guess from all of my research is that this information was the result of that 2020 reinvestigation.
Okay.
So at some point, authorities were able to further analyze Mateusz's cell phone. German police also obtained security camera footage and searched Mateusz's apartment in Hanover, and his personal belongings that were found with his remains in the barn were also DNA tested. And these DNA tests on his personal belongings came back with only his DNA. So I think that's pretty compelling. Nobody else's DNA was on those items found in the barn.
Was the DNA on the orange juice?
I have to assume only his DNA was on the orange juice.
That's all
Now,
we need to know.
I don't know what all was tested, if everything was tested. That's why I think it's interesting that, like, I've never seen anything for sure that said, yes, it was blood that the teeth were stuck to, because they did go back and retest the information or retest the evidence. Now, I do know that originally the evidence was given back to his family. The police didn't hold it. Maybe they couldn't test it because the chain of custody. I don't know. Maybe the family washed the clothes. I have no idea. But I do question that. Like, how do we not know what was on his clothing? But we do know it was just his DNA. So I think that's important to acknowledge.
That means a lot to me.
Now, based on all of the newly gathered evidence, prosecutors were able to establish that Mateusz had lied to his family on the day of his disappearance.
Oh.
He was not in Szczecin when he called his family on March 29th. That's that little village just inside Poland he told his father he was at. In fact, he wasn't even traveling at the time that he spoke to his father. According to receipts found in his belongings, Mateusz was still in Germany.
Huh.
Investigators learned that Mateusz took a train to Frankfurt, which is a German city on the Polish border. Now, there's no proof of this, but it is believed that he then most likely walked over a bridge to the Polish town of Słubice almost 24 hours after telling his family he was already in Poland. So he's just not at all where he's telling his family he is. He then appeared to have checked into a hotel with another unknown person. So authorities have never told us anything else about this unknown person. We don't know if it was a man or a woman. We have no description. We know nothing. But hello, this is huge.
Do the police know who this person is? We just don't know who they are?
I believe the police know who this is, because all of this information they're gathering from, like, receipts. I'm assuming maybe they found a statement or a receipt from the hotel. Maybe they went to the hotel and talked to the clerk. I don't know exactly how they're getting the information, but and again, remember, I think they're getting this in 2020, 2 years after he went missing. So I believe the police believe they know who he was with, but they've never released that information to us.
Curious. Was this like a romantic rendezvous of some kind?
Who knows? Theories. There are theories that it was a sex worker. There are theories that he was going to take his own life, and so he hired a sex worker just for, like, one last hurrah. There are theories he had a gay lover. I don't think there's anything that led anybody to believe that, other than we're just kind of going down rabbit holes.
I mean, a random clandestine meeting that would lead someone to take their life. I mean, it's not completely out of the blue.
Right.
But yeah, we're grasping at straws for sure.
There are theories maybe he was involved in some kind of illegal activity. And so before he could come be with his fiance and his baby, he wanted to take care of this business that he had going on. And that ultimately led to his demise. I mean, there's all kinds of theories. We don't have the answers to any of our questions. According to authorities, he checked into a hotel with another person.
Okay. Someone who drank orange juice?
You know, that's where my mind went. I was like, I wonder if this person likes OJ.
But it was Mateusz that held it for them.
That's right. A gentleman,
A
holding
gentleman holding the orange juice
juice.
box. It's a very romantic gesture,
You hate orange juice, but yet you'll hold it for me. I can't say I wouldn't be impressed.
Absolutely. Just putting your fears aside.
That's right. The next day, Mateusz took a train to Warsaw and then a bus to Zamość, which was about 13 miles away from his home village of Hutków. Mateusz arrived in Zamość around midnight, and it is unknown when or how he got to Hutków from there. Hutków is where his family lived and where he was found 5 months after he went missing. So that's what authorities have told us, that he did go to his childhood village, his hometown, just within a couple of days of leaving, and took his own life. And that is what we know. Now, Mateusz's vehicle and his keys have never been found. There's no evidence that the car was transferred to a new owner or deregistered. And that vehicle and the keys still remain missing. And this is very strange to me, because how did he get to the train station if he didn't drive there? And okay, you can go to a train station without driving, but if he didn't drive there, why weren't his keys either on him or in his apartment? If you don't drive, you leave your keys at home. Where is the vehicle? Why wasn't his vehicle left behind at the apartment? Like, where is this vehicle?
What was he up to? I mean, it does certainly make me wonder if there was some illegal activity or something. Like, why would he want his car to disappear? I mean, clearly he did something to the car, I would think. Could this unknown person have taken the car? I mean, I guess we don't know. I guess maybe the police would have said if they had taken it. Maybe this unknown person dropped him off at the train station?
Well, the unknown person was with him. So maybe the unknown person drove them both to the train station. But what happened to his car?
Yeah, maybe the unknown person took the car.
Maybe.
But then took it where?
They were traveling with him for a while. So
right.
They would have had to come back later to take it. I don't know.
Huh.
So I have lots of questions. Let's talk questions. So there's the car. There's the keys. In regards to the car, here's the thing. If Mateusz did take his own life, it's almost like he went out of his way to hide his vehicle. That doesn't make sense to me. He left his body, again, if he took his own life, he literally left his body right out in the open at his parents' farm. Why is he worried about hiding his car?
No, I agree. The hiding the car is weird, which makes me think, did this unknown person take it maybe out of the country? I don't know. That's all strange. Like, if he wasn't up to anything illegal, why would you make your car disappear?
Right. Like, if I can see if you're like faking your own death, or if you're disappearing on your own, making your car disappear just like so people have no idea what happened to you, but then you wouldn't go take your own life at a place where you're sure to be found. And I'm assuming if he did take his own life in his family's barn, he probably assumed he would have been found a lot sooner than he actually was.
Oh, sure. Yes.
We didn't talk about this, but where Agatha lived versus his family home, literally two opposite directions, like opposite direction. So a lot of people question, like, why did he actually travel to Southeast Poland while telling everybody he was going to Northwest Poland? So why? My big question is, if Mateusz did take his own life, why did he travel all the way to his family home to do it? I do understand, okay, maybe that's a safe place. It's where you feel safe. It's where you feel loved. But It also seems just really cruel to me. It's almost guaranteed that somebody you love, somebody who loves you very much, is going to be the person to find you. And it also seems strange to me that if you have this connection to this home, so much so that this is where you choose to take your own life, but he didn't have a deep enough connection to anybody to leave a note. Do you see what I'm saying? Isn't that
Right.
that's weird, right?
Well, here's the deal. Maybe he did leave a note and just the course of months it blew away or got lost or something. I mean, could that be a possibility?
I think it could.
Yeah, but conversely, if somebody was going to kill him and stage it, would you go to his family barn and stage it? You know what I mean? Like that seems like that doesn't make sense either. Would you go to his family barn
Right. It
to
doesn't.
stage a suicide? Like that doesn't make sense to me either. You know,
It's a
either
a lot of work.
way it's weird.
It is. It is. The only reason why I can see somebody doing it at the barn, like say somebody killed him and put him at the barn, is like to send a message, like to be cruel. But I have no reason to believe, like, I've never read anything about him being involved in anything or his family being involved. Like, I've not seen anything. That's not to say there isn't, but I've not seen anything at all that would lead me to believe that somebody had it out for this family to do something so cruel. Because you're right. If you just wanted to kill somebody and then make it look like a suicide, you could do that from anywhere.
Yeah, and specifically the rope. Do you know if the rope had any foreign DNA?
See, this is one of those things that I couldn't verify. So I will tell you, but this is not verified information. I could find no real source to acknowledge this. This is just kind of like, I guess, rumor throughout the village. But the rumor is that the police may have found receipts or talked to like a store clerk or something, and Mateusz purchased the rope, but I've not seen any proof of that. That's just kind of the rumor
Yeah, I
mill.
would feel like if someone had staged it, their DNA would be on the rope. That's my feeling.
I think so too, unless they wore gloves, which I guess that's possible. You know, his DNA was the only DNA found on any of his belongings in the barn. But I guess if you wore gloves and you did a really, really good job, then perhaps that could explain that. But I don't know. Here's my big question about the rope. Why were there two nooses?
Yeah.
The police say that he put one around his neck and he used the other one to kind of like pull himself up. Why would you tie a second noose? Like, I've never tied a noose. I don't know how hard it is to tie a noose. So that automatically to me seems like, well, that must be a really hard thing to do because I don't know how to do it. Maybe it's really simple. Maybe it's really easy. But if you just wanted to hang yourself and then pull yourself up, why not just secure the second rope anyway? Like just in the most simple way. Tie one noose and then just fasten a rope and use just the plain hanging rope to pull yourself up. Why do you need a second noose? And I think it's that second noose that is part of what makes his family think there's more to the story here. I think they see that second noose and think, okay, is it a message, or was somebody supposed to do this with him? Was this like a suicide pact? Or did somebody do this to him and then plan to do it to themselves? Like maybe it was going to be a murder suicide and then they backed out at the last minute. I really think that second noose might be part of what is making the family question the whole suicide theory. I've never read anything or seen anything that says that. I just think if I were his family, that might give me pause, because it gives me pause now. Why two nooses?
Oh, I definitely can see that. I definitely can see it. I think of all the things, that's the one that's the most odd. Now, again, there still are ways to explain it, but it's odd.
So, as you can imagine, there's all kinds of rumors surrounding this case. I've seen things from he had gambling issues, the baby wasn't his, he had this lover, that's who met him in the hotel. All kinds of, rumors, none of which to my knowledge, have any evidence to prove them to be true. But in a case like this, where there's just so many questions, it kind of leads the mind to wander.
Just secrets. It already makes me a little suspicious of him because we already know for sure he's not telling his family the truth of what's going on. And maybe it could be because he's doing something that's not on the up and up, but also it could be because he's going through, some kind of mental break or some depression or anxiety or whatever it is. There's a lot that could be going on, but we know that he's not reaching out in a responsible way.
Right. The police say, he was about to have a baby. That's like this big life-changing event that can be stressful. It can freak people out, which I get that. Here's the thing. If listeners don't want to know my opinion, now is the time to sign off, because I'm just going to give you my opinion. I think he took his own life. I think it's strange. I have some questions. I don't understand what happened to the car. I don't understand why he didn't leave a note. I don't understand why he did it in his family home. Like, I have a lot of questions. I don't understand the 2 nooses. I don't understand, why go out of your way to lie? Even that to me doesn't make sense. Like, if you're going to take your life, just don't answer the phone when your family calls. Why go out of your way to say, hey, I'm on my way?
Just to make them worry. Right.
Right. Just to make them worry. Now, if you plan on taking your life and never being found, okay, then maybe, because you've set it up that something happened to you and they just never know what happened. But if you take your life in the family barn, everybody's going to realize that you took your life in the family barn. So why everything else?
Right. Why all the smoke and mirrors in every other aspect, yet hang yourself in what should have been plain view?
Right. I do think that the most logical conclusion is that he did probably take his own life. But I also understand why the family struggles to accept that.
I think I agree with you all the way. I haven't heard a smoking gun to say it was a homicide, because I feel like it would just be such an inconvenient way to cover up a homicide, to stage a suicide. I just don't feel like any of that makes sense. And again, the fact that he was acting strangely beforehand, to me, indicates more of, something, him not thinking clearly. But it is very weird. The fact that he wasn't found for so long is very strange. And the missing car, I think, is very strange.
Very strange. Now, there is one more. It still boils down to him taking his own life, this theory. But what if he hadn't planned on doing it and something happened during those few days that caused him to feel like he had no other choice? So maybe, I don't know, he had to pay somebody off for something. And so he sold his car, or he gave them his car, as collateral or something. And then he had to follow this unknown person to this place. And maybe he was in some trouble and then he couldn't get out of it. And he didn't want to bring it home. He's got Agatha and he's got a new baby and he doesn't want it to follow him. And maybe in that moment he felt helpless. And that's when he decided to take his own life. Maybe it wasn't this big plan, I guess is what I'm saying.
Or maybe the baby wasn't his and he found out, which is why you haven't been able to find out any more information about the baby, because it turns out it's actually not related to him.
Could be.
And everybody kept it under wraps.
Absolutely could be. There could be answers to all of these questions that investigators just haven't shared with the public. So yeah, it's a mystery and it's a weird one, but that's where I land, that he probably did take his own life, which is very sad for everybody, for him, for his child, for Agatha, for his family. It's a really sad one, but it's a weird one.
I really feel bad for his family. If he really was out there that whole time and they did not know.
Which I think he was. I think they probably did do stuff in the barn and just for whatever reason, maybe didn't go into that room. And then by the time they did go into that room, his body had already fallen. And so then it wasn't visible because at that point it's laying on the floor,
I hate it. I hate that for them. I hate that for them so much.
Awful, awful, awful. Because you know how you do something and you're like, how long has that been like that? That couldn't have been like that very long. I've been in and out of this room for the last week and I never noticed this. I feel like it could be one of those things where it's like they don't know every time they've gone in that barn. They just know that they have chores that they have to do in their barn, or they have to run out to the barn to do this or that. So they're not necessarily keeping track, and they're not necessarily looking for something in the loft. But then later on, when you find out something's been there for 5 months, you start to think, well, that can't be. Like, I can even see how that happened. I really can.
Well, and also their state of mind during this time would have been very frazzled and very distracted because they're worried about finding their missing son. So if they're in the barn, they're probably trying to do something very perfunctory so that they can get back to the task of trying to find their son. You know what I mean? They're not just hanging out, lollygagging in the barn. They're there to get in and get out because they're probably trying to find their son. They want to go sit by the phone. They want to go try to prod on investigators. So I think their state of mind even could have just made them not as observant. I can totally see that happening too.
I think that's an excellent point. I really do.
It still would make you feel horrible as a parent, but I do feel like that's how it could be explained.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Well, Stephanie, now that I brought you down, you want to bring us up with some Branch of Hope?
Yeah, definitely. We are so pumped about this month's not-for-profit. I could tell. You're like, can we talk about Exodus Road now? Can we talk about Exodus Road? Because they are awesome. According to their website, their speaking point is, quote, "We disrupt the darkness of modern-day slavery by partnering with law enforcement to fight human trafficking crime, equipping communities to protect the vulnerable, and empowering survivors on their journey to freedom," end quote.
I love it. I'm so pleased. I love all of our Branch of Hope recipients, but this one, man, just what an amazing thing. Like real life superheroes, you know?
Honestly. Now, on their website, though, they do highlight the severity of human trafficking. According to one of their talking points, there are more people trapped in slavery today than at any other point in human history.
Wow. I would not have known that.
No, 43% of human trafficking victims are in forced labor. 13% of human trafficking victims are being exploited in the commercial sex trade. And 44% of human trafficking victims are in forced marriage.
Yikes.
So this Exodus Road, again, as you said, boots on the ground for real superheroes, helping to stop trafficking. Trafficking happens every day in every country, including the United States. We are not somehow immune from trafficking, and it affects individuals of every age, ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic background. At any given time, there are upwards of 50 million people in modern slavery.
Wow. That's staggering.
Shocking. Really, really shocking. Which makes me so grateful that we have programs like Exodus Road. For the last decade, they have become an expert in helping police find and free survivors and arrest traffickers for legal prosecution. They train local investigators, identify victims, build effective cases, and support law enforcement and operations. So lots of multifaceted efforts, but really pushing forward to make real change, to identify where these human trafficking victims are being housed and to free them and to bring the traffickers to justice. So if you are part of our Patreon, know that a portion of your subscription is going to Exodus Road this month. Also, a portion of any funds that we get from sponsors will go directly to Exodus Road as well. If you would like more information about Exodus Road, you can find that at theexodusroad.com. Or you can find more information on our Instagram account, and know that we are so pleased to partner with them. We really want this to continue to make a difference in our community and in the lives of people who really need it.
I love it. I'm super excited about it.
Love it. All right, make sure you come back next week because I have a very weird, possibly poisoning case. I don't know. It's an unsolved death. So you're going to have to let me know what you think. So definitely come back for that one. It's kind of a bizarre one too. We don't really cover a lot of poisoning cases, but I do find them super intriguing. And this is definitely one of them. So make sure you come back for that.
Oh, I'll be here. Yeah. I don't remember any previous poisonings.
I know, but there are so many of them out there. I don't know why I haven't gotten into them yet, because they are quite mysterious.
Yes, for sure. All right, I'll be here.
Okay. Bye, Shiver Seekers.
Bye.
This episode of The Dark Oak was created, researched, written, recorded, hosted, edited, published, and marketed by Cynthia and Stephanie of Just Us Gals Productions, and made possible by you, our shiver-seeking listener. Special thanks goes to Justice Himes for our incredible artwork and Ryan Crete for our amazing music.